I think Andy Staples has probably been to every cool college football venue you can possibly go to. I'm sure there's some that, you know what? Even Andy probably has one or two, and maybe it's group of 5 stadiums that he hasn't been to. Maybe he wants to go to that dome at North Dakota State. I guarantee Andy has some that he hasn't been to yet that he wants to. He's a good friend of mine. He does an unbelievable job. In all sincerity, if you are into college football and you're not following Andy's work or following him on social media at Andy_Staples, you are doing it wrong. Andy, really appreciate the time. Great to see you. I guess I got to start out with these 2 questions. So one of which is, what's on your bucket list college football venue that you have not been to yet?
I've got a few, and you actually just mentioned a couple of them. So Mikey Stadium at Army. I've never covered a game there. I want to do that. The Fargo Dome you mentioned at North Dakota State. The Kibbe Dome at Idaho. 17,000 seat dome, Moscow, Idaho. I have driven through the parking lot when I was in Pullman to do some Washington State stuff. And obviously Moscow, Idaho is 8 miles away. So I was like, I got to see the Kibbe Dome, but I want to see a game in the Kibbe Dome. And then, those would be my 3. Also, I need to commend you, Ross, on the impassioned defense of spicy deli mustard, because it is the world's greatest condiment.
Oh, you know what? I got to tell you, I already knew I liked Greg Cosell. I liked Andy Staples. I had no idea they were part of the spicy mustard tribe.
Old school.
I didn't know they were part of the family, although they're really smart, successful people. So you would assume that they know that spicy mustard's by far the best mustard. All right, here's the second part of that question, Andy. And by the way, I've done a bunch of games at Mikey Stadium. I couldn't possibly more highly recommend it.
I believe I've heard you and Jason Horowitz doing games at Mikey Stadium before.
Yes.
So,
and honestly, Andy, the crazy thing about Mikey Stadium is it's actually probably best observed from the press box because it's so elevated that you can then see the reservoir and the water and the Hudson River. It's actually better almost the higher you are, if that makes sense. But you got to tell me, give me 1 or 2 or 3 that I probably haven't been to that, Power 4, whatever. What should be on my college football venue bucket list?
If you've never been to a game at LSU, if you've never been to Tiger Stadium,
I have not.
It's the best tailgating in college football. And when they're good, it's probably the best overall stadium experience in college football. It's just so cool. And the tailgating is incredible. The people go all out. It's not, we talk about the Ole Miss tailgating, but Ole Miss doesn't allow open flames. So it limits what you can cook. Like they're grilling gator. Like when they play Florida, they're grilling gator at LSU. So it's incredible. Going into the one that people maybe don't think about, if you get a chance to go to a K-State home game, a Kansas State home game in Manhattan, Kansas, Bill Snyder Family Stadium, they do it right there. Like that's a great crowd. It's a great town, just a great little college town, the Aggieville district with the bars and the restaurants and everything. That's a fun one that I don't think people think about when they're like, oh, these are the best atmospheres in college. It's one of the best atmospheres in college football. And the other one, you'll never believe it until you actually get there to Autzen Stadium in Oregon. 60,000 people sound like 100,000 people. I don't know how they do it, but it's incredible.
There's something weird about the Pacific Northwest and the acoustics, because I guarantee you the people in Seattle are not louder than the people in Philadelphia. But yet, when you're in that stadium in Seattle, it is so loud. They've done a nice job with the acoustics.
The Seahawks Stadium, I've driven past it. I've never been inside it, but it does look like it's just built perfectly to capture the sound. I think that may be Autzen's secret. Autzen is sort of like an extreme version of the old Sombrero in Tampa.
Yes.
And so you've got these 2 really high middle parts that just kind of bounce off each other. And I think that's what helps.
All right, so Andy, we are, I guess, a year and a half into the new college football playoff tournament structure. And I know it could be changing, but I guess, has it been a good thing or a bad thing so far? Are you a fan or not a fan of it so far?
Oh, I love the 12-team playoff. I don't want them to go any bigger. If they go 16, fine. I know they talked about that. because that doesn't really add another round. It just keeps
Right.
it the same general structure. But don't go any bigger than that. Like this is good. I like the stress and the agita that it causes among the teams from 12 to 20 that still have a chance. I like the fact that if you win the Big 12 or if you win the ACC, even if you didn't have the greatest year, you're in. I think that's pretty cool. So I like this format. I thought 4 was too small. Like it's still the most exclusive playoff format in major American sports. Like the fewest number of teams get in, the lowest percentage of teams get in, and I think that's great. But it needed to be bigger than 4. So this feels like the perfect number to me.
You know what I also think? When it was 4, we really only talked about who was 5, 6, and 7, and maybe 8. Now that it's 12, people are looking at who's 14, who's 16, who's 18. I saw on your show you were apoplectic that Miami's that much further down than Notre Dame. Is that the biggest thing that jumped out to you?
Yeah, because why'd they bother playing the game? Like, if they're going to have the same record, and it's not like Notre Dame's played much better competition than Miami throughout the year. They haven't. Their schedules are fairly comparable, and they have the same record, and they played, and Miami won. How in the world can they be 8 spots apart? That makes no sense at all. And that's what bothers me. If you're going to do that, just simulate the whole season on a computer. Don't even bother playing the games. Because the results of the games need to matter at some point.
How much do you weight what happened recently versus what happened at the start of the season?
It all matters, Ross. It doesn't matter when you played it all matters. It doesn't, just because you played it in September doesn't give you a mulligan for losing.
I would agree, but wouldn't you agree if 2 teams are 10-2 and one of them lost the first 2, won the next 10, the other won the first 10, lost the last 2, don't you think that there should be some nod given to the team that's playing better late?
Lost the first 2, were those their only 2 really good games and everybody else was not very good?
I didn't know you were a Notre Dame hater. You hate Notre Dame.
I'm not. I love Notre Dame. I love Notre Dame. We'll defend their independence till the day I die. We'll fight anybody who says Notre Dame needs to join a conference. I love Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's a really good team. I think Notre Dame's probably going to wind up in the college football playoff, mostly because I think Miami's going to lose another one along the way, and Notre Dame's not. Like they're both gonna play Pitt, and maybe Pitt beats Miami and doesn't beat Notre Dame, but you gotta have results matter. You can't just say, well, it didn't matter, same record, whatever. They play, like you have the ultimate evidence. What if they played? Well, they played.
All right, maybe the bigger question in college football right now is, with all these guys getting fired, why has there not been any hires made yet? Like why hasn't Virginia Tech jumped on James Franklin? I mean, he would be,
maybe James Franklin's waiting for Florida State to open up. Maybe James Franklin wants to go coach at Auburn.
So you think there's a pecking order of available candidates, and those guys are waiting until they see what all their options are?
Oh yeah, James Franklin's going to have options. If he thought his best option was Virginia Tech and Virginia Tech was offering him the job, he would have already taken it. But I think he's going to have quite a few options. So we don't know yet what all the options are going to be, because we'll see what happens with Florida State. That's still very much up in the air. They're playing Clemson this week. If they won out, Mike Norvell would be fine. But if things go badly, their fan base is itching for a change, even though it would be very expensive. Kentucky's another one. Mark Stoops beat Auburn. That got Hugh Freeze fired last week. If they lose, to Louisville, if they lose to Florida, I don't think Mark Stoops is all that safe, even though he has the most school-unfriendly buyout in the country of $37 million due within 60 days of the firing, all in one lump sum.
Wow. That's incredible. I mean, I'd almost try to get fired at this point. That would be all right. So what about, I guess, what's the value in firing these guys so early if you're not going to then make a hire? I mean, I live in central Pennsylvania. Penn State's losing recruits left and right. I thought the whole point of firing him early, if you're going to do that, was to get somebody else in there and rally.
But you're not going to hire somebody who's actually coaching another team right now. They're going to finish their season. So, like, who are you going to hire? You going to hire an NFL coach? They're just going to leave their NFL team? Like,
so then well, you can get Pat Fitzgerald.
You could get Pat Fitzgerald now. And I think he's one who has multiple options and is waiting to see where it winds up.
Could you agree, like, with an agent for a guy like Bob Chesney from JMU, but just not announce it, but kind of know that, hey, that's going to happen?
That has happened many, many times. That happened with Scott Frost when he went from UCF to Nebraska. And you fire the coach during the season to tell your fan base that you're making the change that they're clamoring for, to tell them you hear them. That's why you do it. A lot of schools do it because they see a ton of empty seats and they're like, oh God, the fans are not even going to come back this season if we don't do something and show them we care enough to make a change.
Do you think Curt Cignetti has kind of ruined this whole thing?
I don't think he's ruined it. I love it. I think he has broken every bad coach's excuse.
Well,
like every bad coach who makes excuses, you just point to Curt Cignetti and you're like, he can do it. Why can't you?
Right, but how much of that is, I don't want to say fluky, because obviously they've accomplished.
It's not fluky at all.
Right, they've accomplished what they've accomplished. But I guess my point would be, you can't all be 12-0. You can't all be 11-1.
You can't all be 12-0, but you also can't be in year 3 or year 4 where your trend line is heading down, your trajectory is heading down, and you're saying, well, we just need more time to build. No, you don't. You know by year 2 if you made the right hire or not. You know.
Do you feel, though, Andy, like we should be at the point in college football, especially when I look at some of these SEC schedules and like who Florida had to play this year or who Texas has to play? I feel like, this is just my perspective, I don't think it should be as soon as you get a third loss, we're going to fire you when you have the schedule.
Well, Billy Napier was 22-23 in 3+ seasons at Florida. I'm a Florida grad.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, 500 football is not acceptable at the University of Florida. 3.5 years is more than enough time to get better than 500.
Man, so the way you're making it sound, this is going to be the new normal.
You either have standards or you don't. I mean, that's really what it is. Now, the Penn State one, yes, we can argue about that one all day because James Franklin was winning, was successful. But he wasn't getting them what they wanted. What they want are national titles. And if that's what you want, I'm not one to tell the consumer what they do and don't want. The Penn State fans want national titles. Now, getting that is going to be difficult. Like, I think the Penn State job of all the ones open is the toughest one to take right now because you will be judged against what James Franklin was doing, which means you'd better start winning double-digit games immediately. You'd better start competing for the Big Ten title and in the college football playoff immediately. It's kind of like when Georgia fired Mark Richt and hired Kirby Smart. He was in the national title game in year 2, great, but in year 1, when he was, I think he was 7-5 or 6-6, it was like, oh boy, what is this? So you have to succeed immediately if you're in that job. But like the Florida job, like he was not getting it done. So they fired him. Auburn, he was not getting it done. So they fired him.
Yeah, I guess it's a great point about landing spot because entry point means a great deal. Franklin, by all accounts, Andy, it was a top 10 program over the last 10 years. They just weren't top 5. Penn State believes they have the resources to be top 5. I guess, Franklin used to say this all the time, but I'll get your opinion. I'm not sure people realize how hard it is to go from top 10 to top 5. Because top 5,
he's exactly right.
It's Georgia, Alabama, it's Ohio State. Like, there can only be 5 in the top 5.
It's the hardest part. It's the hardest move. Dan Mullen mentioned that when he was at Florida, where he wins 10 games. He wins the Orange Bowl, and they interview him on the field after the Orange Bowl. And he said, it's that 11th and 12th that are the toughest step. And he was right. And I mean, he ended up getting fired at Florida. It is very hard. The places where they expect national championships, the margins are so thin, and they're going to make mistakes too. Because look at what Georgia did. They fired a really good coach in Mark Richt and they hired an even better coach in Kirby Smart. That's not going to happen most of the time. Most of the time, the person you hire is not going to be as good as the person you just fired if that person's winning 10 games a year.
Check him out on social media. He's fantastic. He's all over college football at Andy_Staples. We got a good weekend this weekend. Indiana's double-digit favorites against Penn State. That's a real thing in society. It's unbelievable. Thank you, Andy.
Thanks, Ross.
Love diving into some college football. I'm a big college football guy.